So, on this episode, I wanted to label it as the simple way of doing business, but it's actually more complex than that. But it isn't. I know this sounds strange. The interview was with Dan Rogers, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, and Dan's story is really unique. Dan took this company that was doing over 20 million a year and trimmed it back to just hovering over $1 million. And through a lot of decisions and working through stuff, they trimmed their staff from where they were a robust team, trimmed it by 2/3. And here's the big thing. They got rid of their salespeople. Now they're already back. They're above the 20 million again. So in this episode, you're going to learn how to do business the simple way. And you're also going to learn what you can do to approach things from different frameworks and principles. He shares 8 frameworks at the end of this episode that you're definitely going to want to listen to. Dan Rogers was an interesting interview, or I should say is, because you're going to hear it in just a second. What I really would love for you to do as a listener is to figure out what are the most simple things that you can apply to your business now. See, business doesn't need to be hard, but a lot of people complicate it. The goal of this podcast is to help you in your business. You'll notice there's not a coaching program or a course that I'm selling. I pay for this podcast. I pay for all of these services, and I'm not asking for anything other than for you to listen and hopefully get something out of it and then share with others. We're going to jump into the interview right now with Dan Rogers. To give you some background, he is absolutely a brilliant business mind. He's focused at getting results that I think will help you in your business, regardless of the business type or the industry that you're in, because these are principles. Thanks for being a loyal follower of the podcast. If you haven't already, please share with your friends. Let others know about it. This is a labor of love that we're trying to help other people. And I want to thank all of our listeners. I look at the analytics and see that we have listeners in countries throughout the world. And I'm so grateful for all of you. Let's jump into the interview.
Hi, I'm Dan Rogers. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Spencer. Folks can find me on LinkedIn at Dan T. Rogers. The 2 things that primarily keep me out of trouble, CEO and founder of Point-to-Point Transportation and Sales Sidekick. And it started as I found that it was just a heck of a lot more fun to help people figure out where they wanted to go and how to get there. And that just sort of lit me up. And once I sort of locked that in as just sort of a way of waking up and showing up, work stopped being work. And I had a fair bit of success. And that started roughly in 1994. And there's 2 baseball cards. And the second one that starts in 1994 is trying to help people get to where they want to go. And it changed everything. It changed everything for me. Eventually I got put in a sales position. I wasn't trained as a salesperson. I didn't take any sales training. I did like a 3-day deep dive on the psychology of selling by Brian Tracy. But what it seemed to me is that I was really informed on the services that we were providing. I was a former truck driver and furniture mover, converted to specialized transportation salesperson. So I was way more equipped to be able to move the stuff than to sell it. But as I sat down with potential customers, I just thought, look, I just need to figure out what they're really looking for and if it is what in fact we do. I mean, there wasn't anybody that we met with that we probably couldn't have worked with. But what I found over time, having a fair bit of success, was there was people that we were wildly successful with and people that were, quite frankly, really difficult for us to service no matter what we did. And so about 6 months, maybe a year into it, I actually started vetting the customers much more severely than they were vetting us. I could tell, like I was way more selective. And so what that starts to look like is you really focus on who that person is and what they're looking for, not could I work for them, but like what really lights them up and what is it they're looking for from this service. And so that just continued to grow and evolve. We had a lot of success with that. I ended up buying the company that I was working for And then I started organizing the company sort of around that idea that we were going to just work with people that really wanted what we were offering. And so that led to a lot of success. That led to an 8-digit business. It came with one consequence: is I woke up and I hated my job. So I went from being lit up and loving, trying to figure out where people wanted to go and how they get there, to all of a sudden, by trying to do all that, hating my job. And what was revealed to me by the universe and a coach was that I didn't have a vision of the company. Trying to help people figure out where they wanted to go and how to get there was sort of an abstract idea. It wasn't much of a vision. So when we got a clean vision and then took the actions behind that to really get consistent with that vision, then some really exciting things happened. First of all, we shrank the business tremendously. We shrank it by 70% because 70% of our business didn't fit into it. And then the recession of 2008 took another 70%. So it's like a 91% hit on revenue, but clarity of vision and clarity of action behind the vision from that. And from 2010 to going into COVID, we grew that business roughly 2.5 times from where it was when we took it apart, with 7 years in a row on the Inc. 5000 without salespeople. So yeah, so that's a little bit of the backstory. This isn't some sort of theoretical approach that we came up with and we thought it sounded good or whatever. Because I was the guy in charge. I just kept organizing the company around a way of just really trying to help folks figure out what they wanted around our vision and whether they fit into our vision or not. And you don't need salespeople when you're doing that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to unpack some of the mechanics because,
Sure.
8-figure business, and I'm just doing napkin math, reducing, by 91%, we'll say now it's down to call it
1.3 million to be precise.
Okay. Yeah. I thought we were somewhere in that range. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, other experienced business owners are going to realize when you brought that down, your margins probably actually went up because you chose the right customers.
Yeah, not initially, but if you look roughly, this is a little bit of gross amount of math, but we our margins went up almost, our gross, or sort of cost of what we call cost of, traditionally it's called cost of goods sold, we call it cost of service. That margin, we shrank that by almost 40%. So our sort of gross margin was almost tripled, but that took, really started to see movement right away, but continue to refine on it. We got there in 2017.
And so you changed up the mechanics of the business. What happened, staffing? Did you change up, reduce the overall services that were provided and employees and everything else?
So on the initial reduction, we kept everybody. I felt like, it was obvious it was a lack of leadership. It was a leadership issue. It wasn't folks that joined the team, thinking that we knew what we were doing, and we uncovered that we didn't. So we revealed the new vision, and we asked folks, hey, if you're not on board, tell us, because we're going to lose a lot of money, but we don't want to invest in people that don't want to invest in us. And so about a third of the people thought we were stone cold crazy and left, and then about another third sort of opted out, or we opted them out as more time went on, and we retained about a third of the staff. And from there, we really built the engine that was. And there was 6 people that were drinking the Kool-Aid. Like they were deciding what sort of services and what sort of processes and what sort of things that we would do to create value in our marketplace, not because I was giving them some great vision, but because they understood how they could create value for the clients they were serving. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely insane. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you built like a family relationship.
Yeah, no, it got to the place where, so I've been fortunate that I've had the same work spouse. So I'm sort of the visionary. I make the messes, and Christine has cleaned them up for 17 plus years. And we're a great sort of yin and yang. We were probably roughly, I'd say like 2011. And we're looking at each other just saying, it can't be this easy. We were right about to go, I think we doubled the company 3 years in a row. So that might have been either the first year we did it or the second year of 3 years in a row that we doubled. And we're looking at each other just going, it can't be this simple, because it was so hard from from 2002 to 2007. And a huge part of it was the vision was clean enough that folks could actually sort of pick it up and extend it, right? And I think
Mhm.
I just can't stress enough. I mean, it's obvious in the rearview mirror how important that is. It was a hard lesson to learn, but yeah, no,
What do you mean by it can't be this simple? Because I mean, we still have a business. We have,
yeah.
the operations of the business. We, regardless of what you're doing, there's some type of deliverable that's happening. Did that change, or what changed?
Look, I'm a little bit of a knucklehead, but my heart has always been in the right place. Like, it doesn't. I'm human. I feel very comfortable with all sort of the honorable things that I've attempted to do. But we've made some mistakes. But we were trying to run the business the right way, and it helped that we hired some coaches. So we're big fans of the scaling up community. We're big fans of the EOS community. But when we got the vision clean and we started having what we would call town hall, we sort of got the meeting cadence, in sort of alignment with the rest of what we were doing. It was when you start seeing people participate and bring ideas that are, quite frankly, better ideas than I had, or ideas that I know I would have more than likely never come up with. That's what I mean by it's so simple. I mean, before, I felt like I had to be the chess master that was 6 moves ahead of everybody in the business, including, our competition in the marketplace. And now it's like, no, we just need to make sure that we've got a clean vision set, and then just remove the obstacles, which is usually me. I mean, most of the time, I think I was the
Yeah.
biggest blocker, right? And that's where most of the learning has come from, is just figuring out how I'm actually getting in the way. With, again, I mean, the
Oh, okay.
intent is always well, but we know what the path to the bad place is paved with, right? So it's a lot of good intentions.
Okay, so by you mentioning scaling
Mhm.
up EOS, what happened is you guys modified your processes, your systems, you had the right things in place. And instead of you having to be the driver of the business, the vision took place. People were following, choosing the right processes, and their ideas and other pieces made it so the business was driving. And essentially, you're amongst many captains of the ship, and it wasn't just on your shoulders. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll give you maybe one of the most extreme examples. So it was probably January 2015, if I had to do it off the top of my head. And again, being fans of those coaching systems, we had a BHAG, and it was a number BHAG. It was 20 million by 2020 at the time, but it was sort of flat. And quite frankly, I knew at that point we were going to beat it. And even though it was only 2015. And so I asked it for part of our kickoff meeting, I asked a woman on the team to go out and research BHAG and do a presentation on it. And I told her, I sort of misled her a little bit. I said, hey, we're just not leaning in. It's not enough about what we talk about every day. So I want to sort of freshen it up, but I want you to sort of bring us up to speed. And then, I don't want to I talk too much during these meetings anyway. So she did a phenomenal sort of like taught the company what a BHAG was, right? And then we had just gone through the forecast for that current year. And so then I jumped back up in the front of the room. I sort of quickly extrapolated that we were going to probably crush those numbers by 2018 with just even sort of moderate growth. So I said, I think our BHAG is too small. Do you guys want to have a new BHAG? And they said yes. And so then I called her back up and I said, you facilitate. I'm going to sit in the back of the room and not even participate, because we all know my personality. I don't, it's more important that we're on board with this than, right. So I sat back there, and it was half hour, 45 minutes. And they finally got down to the conversation was basically semantics and grammar. Right. And so I raised my hand. I'm like, can I participate? Everyone starts laughing because that's probably the longest I had been quiet my entire life. And I said, look, I think I get where you're going, and I have no idea what the proper grammar is, but based on the spirit of this conversation, most needs to stay in the BHAG. And they all agreed. So then I got up there and said, look, I'm going to accept the challenge to lead us on this BHAG. I'm not sure I'm qualified, and we'll find out as we go forward, but I'm willing to accept the challenge. And if I can't do it, then we'll bring somebody else in that can. Right. And that's what I mean is like, I didn't even I did not. I mean, I think probably I held the line that we had bad grammar in our BHAG. That was the part I contributed. So that's the most extreme example. There's all sorts of other examples where people would sort of invent little extensions of our services in terms of what we would do because they knew that that would bring peace of mind to the customer, right? And I mean, that's all stuff that you have to sort of be on the front line and really caring about something to figure that out, right? You don't figure that out in Excel pro forma or in a business plan. You figure that out by like trying to do good work for the people that you serve. And so that would happen on a fairly regular basis as well, right? And so that's what I mean by, we certainly, I mean, I contributed a part, but like a huge part of what was happening is that other people were taking their
Yeah,
part.
you had some great drivers on there, and it sounds like you're customer focused. So kind of running that napkin math again, where we were low seven figures, and now boom, the company's back up 8 figures, healthy company. But you did something different.
Yeah.
No salespeople.
Yeah. So this
How
is well,
or
because
why?
quite frankly, we didn't need them. So I'm gonna take a step back because I think if we sort of build from just sort of what I would call universal laws or constraints of the universe, like it'll all make sense, right? So I'm unaware of this not being ever true. Now, if it is, there's probably a couple exceptions, but top performers in any walk of life, whether it be for profit, nonprofit, athletic, artistic, whatever, if they've done it honorably, right? The first thing that all of them have done is they've poured massive value into the community or marketplace they're going to serve. We all know that. We all know that. Individuals, that's what we do as individuals. As company, then we get a group of individuals, and we don't call them a gang, we call them a corporation, and we lose sight of the universal constraint, which is you have to be more focused with putting in before you start taking out. And companies, man, we've perfected the take. Like, there's no question. Like, we've perfected the take. Like, there's no question. We just have to spend more time on the give. And step 3 of our quote unquote sales process, if we want to call it, is gift. And gift is for fun and for free, no strings attached. Like we're just going to try to improve them straight up, right? Based on what we thought we understood them as a person. So back to, how we did it. We were so concerned. So we have 2 different types of people that send us money at point to point, and we love both of them, right? So we have customers, and customers are fantastic. They send you money, and clients are even more fantastic because they let you do their best work and you can really partner with them. So roughly speaking, at any given time, we added a customer a week for 6.5 years without salespeople. A customer is not somebody, Susie sitting next to Sally at some Fortune 100 company. We're supposed to get those. A customer in our world was somebody, a new corporation that we hadn't done business with in 3 years. Right. So like a full blown entity have to set up a new account and right. So how we did that is now full disclosure, we might have lost 40 customers one week because we didn't pay attention to the customers. We didn't engage customers. We're 100% pull company as best we can. So if people aren't pulling us in, then we're certainly not going to go push our services on them. So we have this pool of paying customers, roughly 400 of them or so, maybe 350, 360. And they're just asking us to do sort of regular work that we can do with little or no lift, right? Like it's just what we do all day. But that provides a platform for us to fund and design a world-class event shipping company for people that want that level of experience. And those 30 plus customers that are clients that allow us to do that work get this incredible result, right? And we create so much value there, and we get so much exposure there that we have customers crossing the room to join, to work with us. And then occasionally, every once in a blue moon, a customer right away says, I want what they have. But we're fortunate that we're fairly deep in gaming. And we've worked with the 2 largest console companies for a very long time. We've worked with one twice as long as the other. And it sort of breaks my heart a little bit. We love all of them, but But just from a longevity standpoint, we actually do better work for the one that we added about 7 years ago, because from the very beginning, they said we want to be a client. They didn't say that, but they allowed us in. There was enough system integration. They allowed us to create enough value in their process that we could do that great work. Whereas we love the other consult company. We love them. We love them. I think we're the only company. Yeah, we've worked with them for a very, very long time, but they're quite happy with how they interact with us. But it's a customer relationship, right? And about once every 18 months, make a phone call so they know that we still love them and that we'd love to do more. But at the end of the day, it's a pull on their side, not a push on ours, right? Like they've got to decide that they want. And look, I've been successful in business for the wrong reasons. I don't mean like ethically wrong reasons. I've done the planning, the whiteboarding, all that stuff. And it was all solid stuff. And then it's like, oh, wow, we were successful despite our best thinking, right? So I'm not going to be so arrogant to approach, a Fortune 100 or a Fortune 500, even, somebody smaller than us, and say, I know how to run your business, right? But we're going to hopefully help them make an informed decision. So then they're deciding, they know what they're deciding, and feel very comfortable that other consult company is quite happy with their decision, right? Right. So that's not sales. That's not sales. And this company was public, and then they got acquired by another publicly traded company. But as that transaction was happening, we had someone close them and convert them from a customer to a client. This person, phenomenal woman, it's great, created a lot of value for us and our clients. But she's a paralegal. She's a paralegal. She's not a salesperson. But when you set the systems up, and you're only talking to the people that we're fairly certain want what we offer to the marketplace, you don't need salespeople, right? You need process people that can help people make an informed decision about how they want to conduct their business. And that's not sales. That's not sales the way I've heard about it or hear the people talk about it. So does that help with a little bit of the mechanics?
It does. It's really interesting because using the languaging of clients and customers, you're shifting the way that the sales piece is, assembled together. Help me understand this. You still have to actually go through that process of making sure that a new client customer is a fit for the company. You're bringing them in. What does that look like as far as, the process? Because I'm trying to find something tangible so that our listeners say, wow, okay, we can do this differently.
So I think the first thing is viable. You have to be a viable business. And how I would define viable is I see things in systems. And so I think a business, a more useful way of thinking about a business isn't, don't think about it as a business, think about it as a system. And there's 3 core subsystems to a business. And if we just sort of take it chronological, right, the first subsystem would be marketing and sales, right? Then the second one would be, service delivery, right? We have to produce it and deliver it. And then the last one would be, we've got to pay for it and get paid for it. So, HR, finance, admin, all that. So viable in my book is let's look at each one of those 3. Let's be really honest with ourselves, evaluate ourselves against our sort of, like-sized companies. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do we rate in each one of those 3 categories? If you can get to 24, whether it's 10, 4, 10, 10, 10, 4, whatever, I think you're viable. I would say that most people, they fancy themselves more viable than they are. If you get really critical on that evaluation, and the reason why I'm coming back to your question, I promise, is I sort of took it for granted because I'm a systems guy, but you have to have enough decent process. It cost us 0 kcals, no cognitive strain to add a customer. It happened. We had 24 seats in Manila, and if you were a customer, you didn't even talk to anyone in the United States. And I'm not down on we love our customers, but there's enough process that we could outsource that part and cross a cultural and language barrier, and the customer was perfectly fine with it. Right? but you have to have enough process in place to be able to do that. I think in order to sort of be viable, I think people try to scale before they're actually really locked and loaded. And I've done that as well. Like, I mean, we didn't talk, and I know it's not probably appropriate at this point, but if you look at some of the blood in the street between 2002 and 2008, is because we scaled without like bulletproof process. So to sort of get back to it, is we could add customers. Like if somebody wanted to engage us, like the pricing, the basic agreement that we need in place, that all happened with little or no cognitive strain at all. So you can onboard a customer in half a second, like, I mean, so, it with little or no pain. But the client evaluation was a little bit more. But what we would do there is they're already an existing customer. They're paying us to do a project of some sort or some group of work. So we would send a highly opposable thumbed person to do what was easy work, right? Basic account management work that we had processed to the point that it was almost, I mean, at some point in the near future, it might be automated. Is that process driven? So we're sort of over servicing it with a overqualified person, but they're there doing their best work. But what they're doing is they're evaluating the person, the business, and the opportunity long before we might not even have a conversation with them, right? And they're not doing anything super stealth. There's nothing dishonorable. It's actually unbelievably honorable to fully qualify somebody before you ask them for a conversation. And so what are we looking for? We're looking for, do they sort of have the mindset that it sounds silly, but not everybody wants to save money. Not everybody wants to organize the work in a way that makes sense. Some people just want to push it through the system, and we can't be great at that, right? Like what we can be great at is a little bit of systems integration. We're going to help you reduce the scope of work that's required, which is going to create this massive level of savings, but you don't get anything for free. We'll do most of the heavy lifting, but we need some access for you, and we need some access to your systems and a little bit of help about how you're currently organized and what your overall objectives are and all that, right? And that's the stuff that a lot of people are like, look, man, you're a shipping company. Like, get over it. Just move my stuff. Hey, fine. Like, you're a customer. That's fantastic. But we've done things where we've reduced scope. We did an asset management program for an event program. So corporate event program, they let us manage a pool of the assets. We had to understate the savings that were created because the savings were too big. Like, I'm like, no one's going to believe that we did this. So we just whacked 18 points off of what we said we saved them. Because it was like, if we go back and tell them, we saved them over 50%, right? And I was like, they won't even believe it. They won't. This will sound, if we put this in the infographic, they're going to just be like, this doesn't compute, right? So when we did the business review, we showed them and we said, we think over the long haul, we think this is going to average out to the 42%, but here's your real savings. And it's all their numbers on their math, on their dollars. It's not voodoo stuff. People get super excited when you reduce scope like that, right? And you don't need salespeople. You don't need salespeople. They're super excited. They're very happy to give you more access to more information to reduce more scope, right?
This is a complete paradigm shift, the way that you're approaching this. And, oftentimes you hear a lot of professionals and they list out the latest and greatest formula that they've come up with. And I think a lot of people try and complicate things. And what I'm getting from this is a different approach, a human approach, something that's a lot more simple and that's rooted in systems and processes that are important.
Mm-hmm. Universal laws, quite frankly. So I have 8 restraints, because the way, and your listeners might be picking up on, I'm a little out there for sure, but like I needed to sort of put words in place, sort of like little mantras, like to keep my brain on track. And so I have these 8 restraints, so I just can't run far afield. But the restraints are based on my knowledge and understanding of what I would call a constraint or a universal law, right? And And getting in alignment with that just means you're pulling with the rest of the universe. And so I've got a decent brain. I appreciate the boss for what she has provided. There's no question. But like, I'm not one of those people that figures stuff out. Like, I'm not going to come up with something new. What I am pretty decent at is figuring out how things work and how to put them in alignment with what we already know works. So restraint number 5 is copy off the smartest kid in class, right? Like, so that's just a reminder. Hey, Dan, you don't have to make this up. Like, there's somebody out there, some woman or man out there has already figured this out. There's no new problems. Go copy off of them, not steal from them. Like, go to the public domain or hire them, do whatever you got to do, but have somebody else that knows, stand on their wisdom instead of trying to build it up yourself. Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Would you mind hitting the quick bullet points of those 8? And then what we want to do is we're going to wrap up and then have a way that people can get in touch with you.
Great. Yeah. So off the top of my head here. So restraint number 1 is to be nice to yourself. And I'll try not to go on full blown rants on all these, but they sound one way, but when you play them out, they're a little different. So being nice to yourself means I'm going to tell myself the truth as I perceive it to be, to the best of my ability. And so what the object there is to accept the largest percentage of reality I can in any given moment. Right. And that's brutal. That's brutal to do. Like, I'm a 5'7" bald dude. Like, there's a lot of universe out there. Right. But my best strategy and my best position of strength is to be as honest as I possibly can and surround myself with people that have the courage to tell me the truth as well. So restraint number 2 is, if you're bored, you're boring. So life is 100% optional. Like, the stuff that isn't optional is completely taken care of. Like, so if you don't want to breathe, guess what? That, and I want to be flippant about it. But all the stuff that really matters is taken care of for me. The rest is up to me. So if I'm bored, that's 100% on me. People used to say, hey, I want to be inspired. I'm like, be inspired then. It's not an outside job. Number 3 comes back to a little bit of what we're trying to do with Sales Sidekick, which is, I believe that work is the single most honorable act in the universe. I'm a huge fan of love. Love is wonderful, but it's not much of an accomplishment. Like, I love my children. I don't feel like I did much to do that. It's hopefully over time I have the capacity to love more, and it's a wonderful thing. But work for me is the most honorable act. It's like when I put sort of my best thinking aside and say, how can I be of service to others, or how can I be in alignment with the universe? I call that work. And that's the single most honorable thing I can do. Restraint number 4 is we're playing chess, not checkers. I watch people and they just act transactional, and most sales is completely transactional. And I find I find it distasteful, but at the end of the day, it's grossly ineffective. Like, it's just grossly ineffective to look at life as transactional. And it's not even chess. Like, it's multidimensional chess nested inside of many games of multidimensional chess. Like, this is a much bigger, more complex game than we give it credit for. And so I don't pretend to be able to understand it, but by reminding myself that we're playing chess and that it's a bigger game than me really keeps me in the place of trying to line up with the bigger forces. I already mentioned number 5. So copy off the smartest kid in class. So, it's just way more effective to find the successful people and copy them. Right. And then debating, testing, and all that other stuff, it's just a waste of time. Right. Like, and one thing I would say about this is my overwhelming experience with this is that the few times that I've copied off the smartest kid in class and it hasn't worked, when I've gone back and actually looked at what I did, I just didn't do it right. Like, I cannot remember a time where I didn't, I've found smarter people as I went along, but usually where I start, almost everyone's smarter than I am in terms of what we're trying to do. And so you might copy off this person to start with, and then from that level of understanding, you go find another smart one. But like, it's really, really effective. So we talked a little bit about number 6, which is don't push. Like, the universe is 100% pull. Like, gravity pulls us, right? So I'm human, so I do push. And then when I get super animated, I got to be careful that I don't start pushing, but it's just, no one likes to be pushed, right? So if we focus on making it so on creating value, people that want it will pull for it. Number 7 is a fun one. So my opinions don't matter anywhere outside my own head. Uh, so that's a reminder that I got to just own what nonsense is bouncing around inside my head. And they're probably opinions. There's very few facts out there. Like the fact list is pretty short. I mean, it's not 3 long, but my opinions they count almost to infinite, right? They're super important inside my own head. They don't matter outside. I report up to the boss. The boss has never asked, "Hey, Dan, how do you feel about gravity?" Like, my opinion has already been factored into the system that we call the universe. And so my opinion of it is, it not only does it matter, it's already been accounted for. So number 8, restraint number 8 is you can always add one, and that cuts both ways. So it's a reminder that, hey, we can always add one, and then, but we can also just add one for the sake of adding one. So does it really make sense for us to add one here, right? And then, because restraint number 8 is you can add one, there's got to be a bonus constraint or restraint. So the bonus restraint number 9 is mistakes at full speed. So see number 8, but full speed isn't as fast as I can go, or as fast. I mean, I'm not pitching these to anybody. This is just my own craziness. But full speed is the appropriate speed based on where I'm at and what resources I have. And the fundamental sort of mindset in there is that mistakes are built in. The idea that by going slower, I'm going to make less mistakes is hilarious. My learning's just going to be slower, right? Like there's not. So full speed isn't pedal to the floor unless it's a flat road and we got a great car. Then of course, then it's pedal to the floor. So that's the restraints.
Oh, those were so good. This was a fun conversation because you're approaching it totally different. I want people to be able to say thank you to you and follow up. What's the best way for people to do that?
I think our sort of hub is just Dan T. Rogers at LinkedIn. And I want to eat my own dog food. If any of this has sound even remotely helpful, I would love to be helpful. And you can schedule time on LinkedIn, and there's folks, whether it's point to point or sales sidekick. I mean, the phone and the calendar is open. If you want me to think about you in between those calls, then we should probably talk a little bit about that. But if this sounds interesting, I'd love to be helpful, and I reserve the right to learn more than you do in that conversation. But I'd be happy to talk to anybody that thinks any of this is interesting. Or if you've got a different take on it, I reserve the right to copy off of you as well. So.
Hey, I like that. So what I'll do is I'll make sure we put that contact information inside of the show notes. And sincerely, this was a wonderful conversation. I learned a lot. I've gained some things that I think will help my business. And as the host of this show, I know this will be extremely helpful for our business owners, regardless of where you are, because we have listeners throughout the world. And these are principles that you can adopt into your business, regardless of what country you live in, what category your business is, or what size you're currently at. So, Dan, this was extremely helpful. So thank you so much for spending the time with us and making yourself available for our listeners that have further questions.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure. I love the game, the sort of game of life and the game of business. So if anybody wants to play, let's do it.
Awesome. Thanks so much.